Welcome to Capital Combat Parley.
Yes, that's right. Capital Combat Parley in studio, brought to you by the Special Forces of Video Production in Ottawa and Gatineau. That's Obscura Creative. Big shout outs to Derek Price. Big shout outs to Jeremy Kennedy. Big shout outs to Kaylin. And big shout outs to Frank. Woo! How you doing, brother?
I'm excited, just
I'm
like you.
excited
Look,
too, man.
we got a crazy home base now,
Yes,
you know,
we
to
do, we
operate.
do.
We're going to do more shows,
Yes.
cover more MMA events, have
got
more
it.
guests. We got some crazy segments coming up.
Yes, indeed.
But don't think we're not going to be on location anymore, because we are. We love being on location.
We love it. We love it. And we're gonna go to all these locations, all these dojos, all these gyms. Thank you very much for sending us comments, for giving us leads on stories. We appreciate it. Keep in mind, we want to work with everyone in the Ottawa-Gatineau region and beyond. We want to thank our fans. We've got fans outside of the National Capital Region, in Toronto, in Montreal, in Quebec City, hell, even in France, Lyon, France. Bonjour les Français, comment ça va? Ça va?
Whatever he just said.
Yes.
Hey, man, and let's just thank all the gyms for all the access they've given us, too, because we go to these seminars, you know, we go to these events and we go to these gyms. We meet the best of the best in the world at combat sports. Yes. And I feel like a kid in a candy store. I feel like I got VIP access. So thank you. We're going to keep doing that. It's awesome. And are you ready to get this new show started?
I'm ready, brother.
Let's do it. So our first guest at the new CCP studio is former pro fighter, coach, Primal Strength Systems owner, Terry Rea. Terry, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. Now, I want to talk to you because you fought back in the dark days, what I call the dark days of MMA, before it was cool, before it was hype, before, you know, Chris Lieben made it really popular. And walk us through that, because you fought at King of the Cage, right? Capital Chaos.
Yeah, 2007, I believe. So yeah, King of the Cage was mostly operating out in Calgary, I believe, and they started doing shows in Ottawa. And I think I was on the first card they did here in
First
Ottawa.
fight of the first
I
card.
think it was them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was you know, I was training at Ronin Mixed Martial Arts at the time, and a lot of my teammates were on the card. I actually hopped on the card like 3 days notice.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I was training with the guys for the fight camp, and
Yeah.
you know, being a body and being in there, and they needed a last minute replacement, and gave me a call at work and asked me if I wanted to be on the card, and I said sure. So I had to get all my medicals done, and like cut my weight and get on the scale and get in there.
What was that like fighting? Because it's, you know, I'm sure it wasn't quite, the shows weren't quite as refined as they are now, right?
It was at the time I had been part of a lot of the pro shows. Like I'd been cornerman and a coach and a teammate, so I'd experienced a lot. It was pretty good at that time. It was being filmed for TSN, so TSN was down, and they would. The production was fairly good. We were in the Robert Gurtain Arena, I believe. It held like 3,500 people.
Yeah.
Hull Gatineau. Big shout out to Hull Gatineau.
So they were there. We did pre-fight interviews and stuff, and they did a little montage and interviews after the weigh-ins and stuff like that. It was pretty good, but yeah, at that time the sport was just like, it was the local scene, right? So
Yeah.
there was a lot of buzz around with the family and friends of the fighters and stuff, and there was a lot of fans, but it wasn't until a little bit later where it really picked up, I think, with the Ultimate Fighter and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, it was a who's who of the local scene, right? I mean, the people who were on the card: Jason Motard, Nick Denis, Stéphane Lamarche, Jay Bisonet, TJ Grant, Mark Bocek.
Yeah, it was a really, really cool time. All those guys were up and coming. A bunch of those guys ended up making it to the UFC and did really, really well. Yeah, so it was at that time, it was the creme de la creme of for the most part, of the Canadian mixed martial arts scene and the local Ottawa scene.
And there was no amateur.
Yeah, there was no amateur.
So you got to be a bit nuts, right? To do this.
You hopped right in. You know, they wanted you to have some type of experience going in, but usually you were going in off of you know, your coach's recommendation, that type of thing. And
Sure.
yeah, it was. Yeah, there was no amateur. It wasn't like it is today. You can there wasn't even a lot of grappling tournaments going on back then either, and even before that. So you could take your time and do grappling tournaments, do boxing and Muay Thai, and get your feet wet in every individual sport, and then gravitate into MMA. But for the most part, like myself and other guys, just jumped both feet in, gave it a go.
When you got the phone call 3 days before the event, what was the initial emotion? How did you feel when you got? Was it excitement, fear?
All of those, both of those things, and a bunch of other emotions. It was like, because the event had been moved. It was supposed to be on a weekend. It ended up being on a Wednesday night. And so I got the call, I think, on Monday. I was at work, and from my coach and asked me if I wanted to be on the card. And initially I said, let me think about it. And actually my friend Stefan Lamarche called me back at work like 2 minutes later and said, did coach call you and ask for the fight? Are you gonna do it? And I was like, I don't know, man. Like I'm way overweight right now, and I haven't really been I haven't been training like I'm fighting. And he's like, just do it. And so I'm like, all right, call him back. I said, just do it.
That sounds like Steph, actually.
Yeah. Walked into my boss's office at the time and asked him if I could get a couple of days off work. 'Cause I had to shoot down to Montreal, get my EEG, my CAT scan.
Wow.
And I was fighting at 170. So at that time, at that time, I think I was 188 pounds. So I had to deal with all that before.
How was the cut? How was that?
The cut was, well, really, I just kind of had to start managing it, and immediately. So I just, avoided water. I didn't do it the healthiest way. I didn't have time.
Sure.
Right. So I avoided water, watched what I was eating. A good friend of mine, another local fighter, a guy did really well, Ian Daw, came with me down to Montreal and hung out with me while I got everything done, and then we toured back into the city. Actually, I had a hard time finding a doctor to sign off on my medicals, because you go in, I couldn't get an appointment with my doctor, going into walk-in clinics, and you're trying to get them to sign off on this thing. And MMA at the time, nobody knew what it was, really. You're trying
you want to what?
You want to do what? Like, I'm not signing off on
Cage
this.
fighting?
Yeah, exactly, right? So I remember we went to doctor after doctor, walk-in clinic after walk-in clinic. This sounds really shady, but going to one, and the guy's like, oh yeah, I love mixed martial arts. I was gonna go to this event, cool. And he signs off on it, he's asking me all these questions, and then we were good to go, and then...
Find the right doctor, kids.
Yeah, and then that was that. Then the next morning I had to wake up and go do weigh-ins, and the whole thing started. And it was weigh-ins. TSM was interviewing you, and then you try to get your weight back up.
And then you fought. And did you have to go back to work the next day, or did you?
I went to work the next morning. Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
How was that day at work?
It was an interesting day at work. I was pretty banged up. I remember I was working as a warehouse manager for a sanitation company at the time, and I had some employees and stuff like that, and I was driving around the warehouse with a black eye and things still oozing out of my head and stuff like that. Yeah, it was interesting, but I had to take the time off to get it done, and it was hard for them to let me be away for that time, so I fought. Everybody else went out partying. I went out a little bit, toured home because I had to go to work the next day.
Now, for you to have fought before it was kind of popular and cool, means you had to start training before it was popular and cool. And the fascinating thing, like, jiu-jitsu wasn't really a thing back then. Grappling wasn't huge. So how did you go about finding good grappling?
It was interesting because I think at this point in time, there's a couple of generations of fans.
Yeah.
Like there's the fans who came in during the Ultimate Fighter, and then there's fans that have come in more recently. And I was like one of those guys. If you talk to some of the older fighters have been come and gone now.
Yeah.
Their story was they found the first UFC somewhere at their local video store in like the early '90s, and were instantly drawn to it. So at that time, I was the same way. I think I was 13, 14, found the first UFCs, got into them, and I was like, I was attracted to all aspects of it. It wasn't just that it was like fighting. It was the guts it took to get in there, the conditioning you had to have, the skill you had to have. So at that point, I started being really interested in martial arts, and I think I got into kickboxing, and then when I got to high school, I started getting into wrestling and stuff like that, and some boxing. I did all these things with the intention of eventually getting into mixed martial arts. So I think it was 2001. I was looking to start getting and starting doing mixed martial arts itself and learning grappling and submissions and stuff like that. Because at that time, you couldn't go around your corner and find a jiu-jitsu gym or any of that stuff. It was no one even knew what it was, right? So I had found a place in the phone book, Bob Carver's Thai Boxing. So I gave him a call. I remember I spoke to that I know now is my original coach, Kareem Byron.
Yep.
Yeah. So
we talked to him, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. So we spoke to him. I came in for try an intro class, and I believe it was a no-gi class. They had gi and no-gi, and then it was mostly a Muay Thai gym. But it was just this little subsection. They taught some submission grappling, and so I went in there and just kind of fell in love with it. I had wrestled a little bit in high school, and the no-gi was I just gravitated towards it really well.
Yeah.
And they had the Muay Thai there, so I'd take Muay Thai and I would do the gi jiu-jitsu, and I would also do the submission wrestling. And
what did you like better, no gi or gi?
definitely no gi. Yeah.
Why is that?
It was just more my style because I'd wrestled before, and I'd always had the intention of doing MMA. So for me, I found it weird putting a gi on.
Yeah.
And I found it weird learning submissions and stuff that I couldn't with the chokes, or sorry, the gi collar stuff and the grips that I couldn't use in MMA. And then my coaches are always arguing that, it helps you build other skills. And
I mean, there's a whole debate there.
There's a debate
But,
there.
yeah.
There's a debate there.
We won't get into that today.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing. But I got more out of it. I just gravitated towards it, and I always wanted to just keep my game simple and focused. And I was going to be, when I did MMA, I wasn't going to be able to wear a gi, so I didn't really want to focus on that.
And you haven't worn a gi since, right?
There was times there.
Yeah, at Ronin, did you train in the gi?
I did a little bit.
Okay.
I earned my blue belt from Marcus Soares.
Okay.
Yeah, and anybody in the jiu-jitsu community will know who Marcus is, and he doesn't just hand those things out.
Right.
And he was Kareem, my coach, his original coach. And so that's how I literally just scanned the yellow pages back in the day and looked for martial arts submission, grappling submission,
Yellow
wrestling.
pages.
You realize millennials won't know what the
those
yellow
are.
pages are.
Before Google. Google.
You don't fight anymore, obviously.
Nope.
But you still train, and you still you run a class, a mixed martial arts class, right? Tell us about that.
Well, I work, I'm a coach out of Algonquin College. They actually have a martial arts facility, a very successful one with tons and tons.
It's an awesome place. I can
hundreds of
testify to
students.
that. I've trained there, and Wayne Boucher, the guy running it, is one of the
guy.
coolest dudes. Matter of fact, he may be wearing his shirt if you want to give that a plug.
Propaganda Fitness, check them out.
Check him out.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I started working there. I was training at Ronin at the time, and Wayne is actually a good friend of the original owners, Jamie and Wade of Ronin, and he was asking if they had any guys that wanted to teach an MMA class, and thankfully to Wade and Jamie, they suggested me and asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said, yeah, I'd love to teach a beginner's MMA class at that time. Yeah. So I started working there. It had to be 6-7 years ago now.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. So yeah, I teach the mixed martial arts there. I was the boxing coach at one point, but I handed that off to another guy. And I teach a submission wrestling class. So I do MMA, we do MMA 4 times a week, and we do submission wrestling twice a week, yeah.
Fun fact, Terry was my little brother's MMA coach, as a matter of fact, when he fought. So it's a very small community here. Tell us about Primal Strength Systems.
So Primal Strength Systems, my career is I'm a strength and conditioning coach. So Primal Strength Systems is my baby, essentially. It is my training philosophy and how I approach my training, everyday people and athletes and stuff like that. So it's essentially, I work a lot. Most of my experience is in corrective exercise and post-rehab and then sports performance. So I utilize a lot of my stuff is for performance and improving movement and, trying to do no harm while you're training.
Right.
That type of thing. So it's a lot of functional, I know that's a word that gets tossed around, functional and practical movements in training that keep people healthy, get them stronger, and for athletes it's just the bare bones stuff that they need as opposed to really overdoing it, all these complex things, and just kind of keep it simple.
And where can people find out about that? The website or Facebook? Or?
Yeah, I got a Facebook page, Primal Strength Systems. You'll find out on Facebook. I have a YouTube channel as well, Primal Strength Systems. I post a lot of things on both. Yeah, so you can find me on there. I operate a lot out of Algonquin in their gym, and I also do a lot of in-home stuff and run my own side of things as well.
Perfect. Yeah. Hey man, I want to thank you for being our first guest. Stick around. We're doing some a new thing, Capital Combat Parley takedown trivia or trivia takedown. You're going to try and take down one of the CCP hosts, and today it's Garmamie. So stick around for that.
Awesome.
You're gonna win.